Also going to get up to about 104.
This is an ABC News special report.
Hi, I'm Diane Medo. We're coming on the air with breaking news of what appears to be an Iranian missile attack on Tel Aviv. Here's some footage from just moments ago. You can see those missiles in the air. The Israeli Defense Forces say their air defense system has interrupted some of those. I want to bring in our Chief Global Affairs anchor, Martha Raddatz, for the latest on this. Martha?
Diane, what we're seeing is interceptions of some missiles over Tel Aviv. That is looking out over the city from our position at the hotel there in Tel Aviv. That was a familiar sight, but it is much more serious when you have Iran sending those missiles in and Israel trying to stop them. There are air raid sirens across Israel right now. People are being told to shelter in place or go to some sort of bomb shelter. I know our Marcus Moore is inside a shelter as well, which we often did in Israel over these past few years since the attack on October 7th. But again, Iran is very capable of sending waves of drones and missiles, despite being somewhat crippled after last night's attack on Iran by Israel, which was a very sweeping, very successful attack on personnel, on top generals, on nuclear scientists, on facilities, not all the nuclear facilities, but some of them indeed. But watching those missiles, watching that interception, there was a shot a little bit earlier. We saw a lot of smoke on the ground in Tel Aviv after one of those interceptions. It looked like one of those either interceptors or one of the missiles themselves. That smoke right there, where that landed and caused that smoke, I'm sure is of some concern right now.
And Martha, we can see that smoke cloud live now. I want to head over to our Marcus Moore, who's in a bomb shelter in Tel Aviv. Marcus, what are you seeing there?
Well, yeah, we are inside this shelter here that's in the hotel on the floor where we've been working. Moments ago, we heard the announcement for everyone, all of the guests in the building, to move to the nearest shelter. They have them set up on all of the floors as well as in the basement here. And just to kind of show you around, just very briefly, you can see some of the supplies they have here. There's also some mattresses on the walls and some chairs and water. Very basic items and necessities, but really the main thing is to get to a place away from the windows and in an enclosed area to kind of protect from any of the impact from any missile that may fall. I can tell you that there has been very high concern about what would happen tonight. The Prime Minister here in Israel saying that they are under the assumption, or they were working under the assumption, that Iran would attack, and he said that attack would involve, what he said was, quote, severe waves. And so that is what we are seeing tonight. And I can tell you, we have heard the sounds of explosions. And at one point, Diane, there was an explosion that was strong enough to kind of rattle the walls here. So it gives you some sense of how powerful the impacts have been as the Israel's air defense system, we understand, has been put to use tonight. And we're hearing those explosions. We'll wait to see how long this goes on. There's every indication or belief that this could go on for quite some time, Diane. And certainly the word that we've heard from officials here for all of the residents who live in this area and those who may be working here is to stay close to a shelter, as they are anticipating a very strong response from Iran.
And as Marcus pointed out, this is definitely putting the Israeli defense system to the test. You can see the smoke there in Tel Aviv, and just from moments ago, we're getting video of what looks like missiles actually hitting buildings. I want to go back to Martha Raddatz again to talk a little bit more about that. Martha, what are you seeing and hearing in terms of the severity of this attack?
Well, I can see that something went down, whether it's debris from an interception or something, that flame going down into Tel Aviv itself, and the smoke that is still in the air now, that huge cloud of smoke. That is something that they will immediately be checking out. What you really have to watch for, as you know, Diane, in these coming days is how serious Iran's assault is on Israel. Israel will respond in kind, and even worse. So whatever the Iranians do right now, whatever they do in the coming days, will be met with massive force by the Israelis. So the Iranians have to take that into consideration, although they were hit very hard last night, very successfully. You've heard Benjamin Netanyahu say he felt he had no choice, that Iran was a terrorist state and that posed an existential threat to Israel. But this evening, as you watch that, if anyone was killed, if there were numerous people killed in any attack and in any attack in the coming days, that will really change the calculus here. Last October, Iran launched about 180 missiles and drones. There was very minimal damage. Almost all of them were stopped. We have to assume that Netanyahu was ready for this, that they had the Iron Dome in place, of course, but other defenses as well. We also know that the U.S. will help defend Israel, no matter what. They will help defend Israel. They've moved some ships around. They were not, according to Marco Rubio, involved in the military attack on Iran last night, but the U.S. will defend Israel. And watching this right now and knowing this could go on for days and days, and that Israel will likely strike back to Iran as well. Diane.
And we're hearing dozens of Iranian missiles are on their way to Israel. People there obviously instructed to remain in bomb shelters, as our Marcus Moore is right now. And I want to bring in former State Department official and ABC News contributor Colonel Steve Ganard for more on this. Steve, you heard Martha there saying that Israel no doubt will retaliate here. But where does this leave the U.S. in terms of involvement?
Well, I think is that, to me,
it looks like we're having some issues with
civilian
Steve's.
sectors.
Looks like we're having some issues with Colonel Ganard's audio. So, Martha, can you expand on that more, just where this leaves the U.S., particularly after the president said that the U.S. would defend Israel?
I think that the U.S. is getting ready to defend Israel in any way they can through anti-missile systems on ships and whatever else they can do to try to stop those incoming missiles into Israel and basically back up the Israelis in this sort of effort. And they are going to be at that for the next several days, if not the next several weeks, depending on how Iran reacts. Now, you've heard President Trump say, let's negotiate. This should end it right here. Let's try to do something and end all this. But we've heard nothing but from Iran except for these missile strikes. So that is their answer to President Trump.
Martha, Israel says it launched these strikes overnight, preemptively targeting Iranian nuclear sites. That was their big focus. Where does this leave the U.S.-Iran nuclear talks now?
Well, I think nowhere right now. I mean, they were scheduled for this weekend, and they were supposedly going to go ahead. But again, this is the answer as of today that Iran has given the U.S. and Israel about any sort of nuclear negotiations. They certainly thought that would pressure Iran, and it will eventually pressure Iran in some way, either more strikes on Israel or they come to the table, Diane.
And I want to go back to Marcus Moore again there in a bomb shelter in Tel Aviv. Marcus, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, hi, Diane. We're still here in the shelter, and it seems to have calmed down from what I can hear outside, not hearing as much activity with the air defense system, we presume, what we heard working and hearing the explosions. But there was a moment where we could hear people in the other shelters, perhaps on the lower floor here, where they're with their children. These are families who are here in this hotel and who are enduring this moment of uncertainty, and certainly one of potential traumatic, especially for the kids. And we could possibly hear, we thought maybe the children crying in the midst of all of this. And so we're waiting to get the all clear. We heard the radio announcement on the loudspeaker like we've heard before, telling people to get to a shelter, and we'll be here until we get the all clear and when it's apparently deemed safe to be able to leave this shelter here, Diane.
And Martha, we had already been told that there were plans underway to potentially try to get American employees out who are working for the government in the Middle East. Any more on that? Could U.S. personnel be in danger here?
Well, there's a warning going out to all Americans across the Mideast region. There is no evacuation plan for regular American citizens in place. Military families and dependents are told they could have left. This is just in the last couple of days. Non-essential personnel is cleared out of Iraq, for instance. We have 40,000 troops in that region. That is what the U.S. is very worried about as well. Does Iran try to attack our troops, our assets, our facilities in the Mideast region? Because even though the U.S. was not involved in the military attack, Iran is certainly going to hold them accountable, hold the U.S. accountable. In 2020, when the U.S. took out Soleimani with a drone strike in Iraq, I was in Iran just days later. There were hundreds of thousands of people on the streets protesting the U.S. and Iran, of course, hit a airbase in Iraq, a U.S. airbase in Iraq, and a lot of traumatic brain injury during that strike. Most of it mild, we are told, and yet they did retaliate against the U.S. That was, again, a direct U.S. hit on Soleimani, the head of their Iranian Revolutionary Guard, but they did take action against the U.S., and that is a fear here as well, Diane.
All right, Martha Raddatz, Marcus Moore, Steve Ganard, thank you again. We're looking at just moments ago what the IDF is saying are dozens of Iranian ballistic missiles over Tel Aviv. It looks like many of them were intercepted, but others made contact. We, of course, will stay on this story, and our coverage continues on ABC News Live and abcnews.com. We'll return to your regular scheduled programming now, but David Muir and the entire team will have the latest on world news tonight. I am Diane Medo in New York. Have a great rest of the day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.